can even watch back, giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back, giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
all in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back, giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back, giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years, Reinbacher
The sickest NHL podcast. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network. He is Pierre McGuire. I am Jimmy Murphy. We've got a very special guest. We want to tell everybody we recorded this interview earlier, so you won't be able to live comment in it, but you, of course, can have your reaction to it. Throw it up in the comments section there, and we will digest it after. So let's get right to it, Pierre. The Montreal Canadiens Executive Vice President of Hockey Operations joined us today, and he had some great stuff to tell Pierre. Unfortunately, my connection was not too good, so I wasn't there for the whole interview, but he had some great stuff from Jeff Gorton joining us here on the Eye Test. So let's go right to it now. It's going.
Yeah, things are pretty good. Like you said, it's a tough weekend. We're trying to get through that. Got some things we got to work through here, but for the most part, it's been a good camp, and it's been an exciting time for our team right now.
Jimmy, before we address the things that Jeff was alluding to in terms of injuries and situations like that, what's impressed you about your camp so far?
Mostly the young players that have come in and put a pretty good step forward. It's hard, right? You have so many guys that have NHL contracts. There's only so many spots, but we've had a lot of young players play well, starting in rookie camp. We had 21,000 sold out 2 rookie games, I'm sure you know about. So that was exciting to see the guys perform in that situation and then to keep going. So we've had a lot of good young players in camp, kind of force our hand a little bit and sort of step up and be noticed. So that's been exciting.
One of the things those young players are going to have the opportunity to do is play for Pascal Vincent, because obviously there was a coaching change in the American Hockey League. Why did you go down the direction of Pascal?
I didn't really know Pascal that well until we went through the interview process, and obviously his resume speaks for itself. What he's been through, his success in the minor leagues, and then to get to the NHL, he's kind of done everything. But the way he carries himself, the way that he thinks about development, kind of meshed with what we're doing, and the fact that he's from here is exciting as well. So there's a lot there. He knows. He told me that when he was in grade school, he had every day for like 30 minutes they taught them about the Montreal Canadiens. So that's pretty wild. We didn't get that where I grew up.
No, you just had Bobby Orr and Phil Esposito and a few players like that. That's all right.
Yeah, we had the I think I might have said it to you last time. What was the bumper sticker about Jesus saves and Esposito scores on the rebound? That's what we knew.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Any disappointments from camp, Jeff, so far this year?
Just this weekend, the injuries that we had, but no. Other than that, it's been good. Been good. The guys, the returning players, are all dialed in to having a good year, and they know it's a big year for them and ourselves. So everybody's on the same page, and Marty's run a really good camp, and things are moving in the right direction. So we got to get over this injury bug that seems to be following us around. But other than that, it's all good.
And Jeff, sorry I cut out there, but no clear update yet, right, on either of those?
No. On these kind of things, it's always we have more than one opinions, right? We'll send out for reports, and so I would hope in the next few days we'd have some more information. But it's a little too early to kind of come out with what's going on. So we'll take all the time we need. We'll get these guys to the right doctors, and then we'll have something.
Well, when you have injuries, people have an opportunity to step up. Is there anybody that's got a glowing first opportunity to step up and potentially replace Patrik Laine, replace David Reinbacher?
Oliver Kapanen right away is a guy that's come in here and played really well and opened our eyes. And we have a situation with him where we have him for camp, and then if he doesn't make our team, he's got to go back to Sweden. So we'll probably we'll keep him as long as we can to make that decision. Try to get him in some of these games that we're finishing off with here in the next week. But he's still with us. We're down to basically 5 lines right now. So he's one guy. I think Josh Waugh is a guy that could find himself in a bigger role too. But we've had some other guys play well. Armia has played really well. Galley's come back and played pretty well in training camp. So we have some guys. I think one thing we do have is a little bit of depth now. And hopefully we can get us through this period.
You referenced, Jeff, that the injury bug keeps following you guys around.
Mm-hmm.
Can you draw on the experience of last year when you battled so many injuries and can you convey to the players how to go back to learn from that experience and apply it now?
Yes and no. I mean, it's frustrating for the players too, right? So, you're out there, you're watching what's going on Saturday night, and it's only natural for, like, I was going through it too, but it's only natural for players to be like, here we go again, right? So you're just trying to stay as positive as you can and understand that, most teams are going through something and injuries are going to be part of the game. And you just hope, we're all crossing our fingers that at the end of the day, when we get the final results on these injuries, it's not as bad as we think it could be.
So let's talk about some positives. How about Laine Hudson? How good is he?
He's really good. He's very exciting. He's created a little bit of buzz in this town, and there's not too many times where a rookie comes in and he touches the puck and 21,000 are like, wow, standing up and yelling for him. So he's played really well. And the other night we're down to 4D after 5 minutes into the game. So Laine, it felt like he played the whole game. Might have to give him a little break here, but he's been great. I mean, since first day of rookies, I mean, really since those 2 games last year in Detroit, Laine sort of he hasn't really missed a beat. If anything, he continues to get better all the time. So it's pretty exciting. Our players are excited when they see him too.
Jimmy, let me just take one more step with Jeff on that. How much does it help you, Jeff, when you got Jack Hughes playing at BU, you got Jack Gorton playing at BU, and you got inside sources on the kind of kid that Laine Hudson is? How much does that help you?
It helps. There's no doubt. We lean on our kids a lot. They've been in hockey their whole lives, and they've watched what we've gone through. And I'm sure Jack Hughes is like my son Jack, where they think that they can do our jobs better than we can. So it's good. And obviously the 2 kids we got from BU, Tucky and Laine, are great kids. So you don't need too much there, but it does help. To know, when you call your son and you say, what's Laine like? Is he act like a prima donna? Does he do anything? He's like, no, Dad, this guy, he's so dialed into being a hockey player. He's a good guy. He's one of the guys. He's got to figure it out. Don't worry about him. And that's pretty much, what it is. This guy's lived his whole life to be an NHL hockey player, and he's pretty close, right?
Okay.
Jeff, what have you thought about the growth of Marty St. Louis as a head coach and how he's, in my opinion, done a great job with the young kids? You mentioned Hudson coming in, but just kids in general and really getting them to adapt to the pro game.
Listen, I think he gets better all the time. The guy works so hard at it, right? He talks to all the right people. He's always he doesn't think he knows everything, which I think is key. Pierre can tell you from his time being a coach. I mean, getting better, understanding where the players are going, that they're changing, that you have to change. But it's the story, like with most head coaches, you get the head coaching job in Montreal, and all the players are probably wondering what's going on here. But it's the story that he has, right? It's what his background as a player, how he got to where he got to, never being drafted and being on the 4th line, being sent to the minors and being frustrated and have to go to another organization to have the success he had, and then becoming an all-star and then a Stanley Cup champion. Like, he's got a heck of a story to tell. And there's not too many people in that room that can't say, well, I can identify with this guy, right? So it's helpful. But I think he's very, very bright guy that a lot of people, are starting to see now in 2 different languages. So he gets better all the time. He's always looking to get better. He spends a lot of time talking to his players one-on-one. He's all about development, which fits in really well with what we're doing. So he gets better all the time. He's really good, but he's getting better.
Everybody talks about team identity. In a perfect world, if you had everybody on board, everybody healthy, what should the Montreal Canadiens identity be, Jeff?
Listen, I say we want to play hard. We want to be hard to play against. Now that can mean anything, right? So I think what you do, if you're a really skilled guy, then you have to be skilled and bring it every day. If you're a hard player, you have to be really hard player. But we have to be a hard team to play against overall. I want to be the hardest working team. I think we're going to be skilled, but we're going to have to stick up for each other. So for me, it's being extremely hard. When the other team is looking at the board and they're about to play you, and they're looking at the lineup and they're looking at all the players, there's not one player they're like, oh, don't worry about that guy. We want a team that they're looking at all 4 lines, all 60, all the 2 goalies. They're looking at like, wow, this is a good team. This is going to be a tough night. There's no breaks in how they play. So sort of a relentless team mentality that has a lot of skill.
Are you concerned at all about the way hockey's going right now in terms of the size factor, considering some of your better players are smaller guys? Is that something you have to adjust to?
Oh, I think we have to be mindful of it, Pierre, for sure. You look at the teams that have won recently. There's some big players in there, and some hard players. So we're gonna have to be paying attention to that. Adding those kind of players as we build this thing out is going to be important. That are men that are everyday players that the other team just is a pain. You can look at Florida, they had a bunch of them, right? You look at Vegas, they had a bunch of them. And then having our better players play like that too. So I think we have the ability to do that. We do have some small skill players. I don't really worry about them as long as we surround them the right way.
What's interesting is, I know that you were the architect that started the rebuild of the New York Rangers, and you deserve a ton of credit for that. And you've never gotten enough credit for that. So I hope people are going to start to recognize that you came into this rebuild with a lot of pedigree. What do you think you have to do now to take the Canadiens rebuild to the next step, Jeff?
I always say this about our team. The thing that excites me the most is obviously the young players come in. We have a few that aren't even here yet that are going to be pretty good too. We have goalies, we have some D, we got some forwards, we got 2 first-round picks that aren't even here. So that's all exciting. But I get excited because I think our best players in general have not reached their ceiling. There's more to go. So that really excites me because you have all these young players coming, and then you have this our core players that haven't really topped out yet. So they're all growing together. So that's it. But it's sort of what we talked about. We're going to have to add the right pieces, right? I think we're in a position now where we have a number of good players. We have a number of good young players coming, but what we add to that mix is going to be key.
I'll ask you one last one because I know you got to get going. One of those young players is Jacob Fowler. In your scouting mind, is there a comparable on him as you see him as a goalie?
Well, I wouldn't want to do that to a goalie, right? So it's a tough one, to put a tag on that. But I will say this: he's I know you know him as well as anybody. He has all the right things for that position, right? He's got the right mentality. He has unbelievable swagger. He believes in himself, and he works really, really hard. We've had a couple things with him in the 2 camps that just talked about working on, and this guy goes to school right away on that. So there's nothing. There's no real ceiling. I don't know where his ceiling would be. He's got a lot of potential to be very good, and we're really excited about the day that he'll come to our campus.
There was a boy that was 16 years old. He played in St. Leonard, Quebec. His name was Marty Brodeur. I tried to recruit him to St. Lawrence University. Characteristically, I think Jacob Fowler is just like him. Like him.
Well, that would be nice, Pierre. From what is it? From your lips to God's ears? Is that what they say?
Yes, I'm just going to call you the architect. They used to call Bill Torrey the architect. I'm going to call you the architect now. Jeff, thank you for your time. It means a lot to us. Thank you very much.
Anytime, guys.
Thank you. Well, that was the president of hockey operations of the Montreal Canadiens, Jeff Gorton, and he was fantastic. Can't thank him enough for his time. To Chantal McAbee, the Montreal Canadiens public relations, for setting that interview up along with Jimmy. It was a fantastically easy discussion to have with a really smart hockey mind. Jeff Gorton's been around the block, whether he was working with the Boston Bruins and learning from Harry Sinden and Mike Milbury and Mike O'Connell, or whether he's working with the New York Rangers and learning from Glenn Sather and John Davidson, and now obviously the president of hockey operations in a Montreal situation that I think is unbelievably quickly becoming one of the better rebuild stories that we have seen in a long time in this league. One of the reasons I asked him about the size quotient is because when you look at Laine Hudson's not very big, and Cole Caulfield's not very big, and Nick Suzuki's not very big. And, they just sent Sean Farrell down to the American Hockey League. He's not very big. A lot of their better players and skilled players are not very big. Jake Evans is another guy, not very big, but plays big. So, again, it's going to be an interesting thing for the Montreal Canadiens. I think there was so much that came out of that discussion with Jeff. It was really fruitful and something that I enjoyed a lot. So let's try to get to some of your questions, and then we'll hopefully be able to get Jimmy back. And if we have any, let's just get right to the questions. Get going. Hey, Max, what is one thing that has impressed you with this Habs management team, and what could they improve? Other than passing on Mishkov, I can't think of anything. What's impressed me the most is they're not afraid to be transparent, and I'm talking about discussing the way the team is playing, discussing their relationship, internally. They're really cohesive. They've come together as a management team, as a coaching staff, and as an ownership group. Everybody's singing from the same songbook, Max. So I don't think there's a lot they need to do better. The one thing I would try to focus on if I were them is to bring in some nuclear deterrence. I don't mean thugs, just one-dimensional goons. I mean guys that are bigger, are quick enough to play in the league, and make sure they can send a resounding message that if you're going to come into Montreal, or Montreal is going to come into your building, you're not going to mess around with some of our players. Thanks for the question, Max. Renaissance Resistor. What do you think MSL, Marty St. Louis, why do you think MSL isn't using Laine on the first PP or Mayu on the second wave? Do coaches get amateur scouting reports on new players during training camps? Thanks. Coaches always get scouting reports. Whether they utilize them or not is a different story. But I think eventually you're going to see Laine on the first power play. I think they're showing a lot of respect to Mike Matheson. I think that's the appropriate thing to do, especially in preseason. I was fortunate enough to be around some really good power plays when I was coaching, and usually those great power plays don't formulate in preseason. They formulate when you get to the end, when most of the camp is done and you're getting ready to go away and come together with some team bonding exercises. And so I think that's something to pay attention to as we go on here. But Laine eventually will be on the first power play. There's no question in my mind. You could just see the way Jeff Gorton was talking about Laine Hudson and the different dynamic he brings to the team, that even the players are noticing now that he deserves serious minutes, and he's going to deserve serious power play minutes going forward. Great question. Thank you. Brock Slip. Hi, Pierre. If Laine is out long-term, which is pretty much guaranteed at this point, I would agree. Could the Habs add another forward from around the league? Who could they go after to help the team? Well, Brock, I do think they could go after another forward from around the league. Who that would be, I don't know, because I'm going to have to look at a bunch of lists to see, what teams really need defense. Because if you really look at the Montreal Canadiens right now, the one position where they're really deep long-term is on defense. They're not trading. There's no chance are they even going to think about trading Jacob Fowler, not even close. And you could, again, that's why I asked Jeff Gorton about Jacob Fowler, and he talked about him in just glowing terms. And he knows what most of us know that have had a chance to see Jacob a lot, is that he's the real deal. He's an impact player. I think once he leaves Boston College, he's going to make a huge difference in the Canadiens organization. But I do think one of the interesting things will be is to see where Oliver Kapanen fits in, because if he doesn't make the NHL team contractually, the Canadiens have to send him back to Sweden, Brock. So I think he'll probably get the first opportunity to play on the wing with Kirby Dach and with Alex Newhook to replace Patrik Laine, and we'll see how that goes. And if it works well, then maybe they don't do anything. But I think if it doesn't work out, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Canadiens get super aggressive and try to go out and add somebody that can score. Big Bill. Hi, Pierre. Do you think there was a missed call by the refs on the knee-on-knee contact from Saturday? And did the non-call be blamed for that game getting out of control? And did the non-call be blamed for that game getting out of control? First of all, I do think the officials missed it. Worst case scenario, you can call a trip there. I didn't like the hit. But I want to say this and go on the record with this. It's really important. I'm seeing and hearing a lot of stuff that people are saying about Cedric Paré. I had him in our organization when I was working in Ottawa. He played for us in Belleville. I spoke with Peter McTavish, who was actually the general manager of that team. I spoke with Peter today. He's now gone into the agent business, and he's doing a fantastic job for his clients. And we both talked about it. Cedric Paré was never, ever a dirty player. He was a hardworking, industrious kid that was trying to make his way into pro hockey. Was that a bad hit? Yes, it was. It absolutely was a bad hit. There's no reason why anybody wouldn't call a penalty there. I really believe that should have been a penalty. That being said, my take on it is it's such an athletic play when he's coming up to engage, and Laine, who's got a wide base, cuts away to the inside. It's a tough athletic play. I don't know if Cedric is a good enough athlete to have actually made a hitting play in that situation. So while there should have been a penalty, in my opinion, everybody's entitled to have their own opinion and thought on the hit. But I would just tell you, that was a real athletic type situation. And I don't know if Cedric was a good enough or is a good enough athlete to have made that play. So that's where I think he got himself into trouble and obviously hurt a real important part of the Montreal Canadiens team. William Stinson, the eye test. How do you think the Habs have filled those 7 roles in a rebuild so far? So I have a 7-player profile that I like to live by, and Scotty Bowman and I talked about this way, way, way a long time ago. And it kind of works. If you look at most of the teams that have built Stanley Cup winning teams, they have 2 dominant centers. They have 1 power forward, so that's 3 of your 7. They have 1 skilled forward where he can be a power play specialist, a face-off specialist, a penalty kill specialist, or a checking presence. So I'll go back to Bowman's teams back in the 70s. Bob Gainey, number 23, he was that specialist forward. He was the guy that really had to work hard to get 10 to 15 goals, but he checked all the best players right into the ice from the opposition. So that's 4 of the 7. Then you need to have an elite puck-moving defenseman. That's 5 of the 7. Then you need to have an elite shutdown defenseman. That's 6 of the 7. Then you need an elite goaltender. So I think for the Canadiens, we're in a situation where it's almost like they have, the centerman coming with Suzuki and Doc. We'll see how Doc does this year. They have the power forward in waiting and Slavkovsky, which is really good. It's going to be interesting to see who that specialist forward might be. It might be Cole Caulfield on the power play. I think they have an elite puck-moving defenseman. They might have 2 in Lane Hudson and Caden Goalie. They have a shutdown guy, and even Mike Matheson, and then they have a shutdown guy, I think, in David Savard, and getting better at that position as well when you look at the organizational depth of the Canadiens. And I think long-term, the starting goalie of the Canadiens is going to be Jacob Fowler. It's not going to be Caden Primo. It's not going to be Sam Montembeault. When they're ready to win, they're going to have Jacob Fowler, and that team is basically the 7-player profile to a T. And so I think they're getting there. I really do. Nareg Haviters. I hope I pronounced that properly. Interesting that he immediately brought up Kapanen. Did it sound like they plan on keeping him on the team in a top 9 role, given the Laine predicament? 100%, Nareg. And I believe I addressed that before, and I would agree with you that Kapanen is probably going to get the first dibs, Oliver Kapanen. And so he's going to be able to prove whether he can play the wing or play the center. I would not move Kirby Dach out of the second center role to make it easier for Kapanen to be in there. I would leave Kirby there. I wouldn't mess with most of the lineup. When one player goes down, you don't want it to affect 6 others. So if you keep Dach there and you keep Suzuki where he is and you keep Caulfield and you keep Newhook and you keep Slavkovsky where they are, you only have to worry about one position. That's the right wing on the second line. And so if Kapanen can do that, that'd be great. Then everybody else is locked and loaded. But if you move Dach, all of a sudden you're really messing around with a lot of the different intangibles that the team roster has. So I would just worry about replacing that one right wing position. And if Kapanen can do it, that'll be great. That's a great question, by the way. Really good. Next, Charles. Pierre, Arbor, and Mayu are the only players with grit, which will result in the Habs D often playing shorthanded. Do you think the Habs can be competitive with gritty and physical forwards? Well, that's one of the questions I asked Jeff as well. I do think with the way the league is going right now, they're going to have to get bigger. They're going to have to get a little bit more stout. They're going to have to get a little bit more angry. They're going to have to get a little bit, meaner. I do think eventually they will start to get that. You don't want Slafkovsky being the guy fighting, by the way. And again, I like being transparent on the show. I've had the privilege of working with Marshall Rafai for the last 6 summers. And he's a tough kid. He's a guy that's earned every NHL opportunity he's going to get from Toronto. And, he's put in a tough spot there as a Montreal kid that has to fight in his own hometown against, the other team's first overall pick. And he does a good job, but that's really not Marshall's job. Marshall's a real good puck-moving defenseman that can play a lot of key minutes defensively. And right now, I know he's one of their top 8 guys, so I'm happy for him. But do the Canadiens need to address a little of that? I think they do. Pizzetta tries his butt off, and I like the fact that he's such a competitive kid. But I think long-term, they're going to have to upgrade at that position. And Arbor and Jaden Struble in particular, those guys are going to have to assert themselves without taking penalties. And that's one of the reasons why I think last year Marty St. Louis and Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton, I think that's why they sent Arbor back to the American Hockey League to do some chores, because he was taking bad penalties. They need him to be a physical presence without taking penalties. XLS Sparta. Okay, XL Sparta, I guess it is. Hot take. After losing Laine, I feel like Marty should spread the talent between the first and second line. Maybe put Slav on the second line so he can try and command his own line, like in Slovak. Well, here's the one thing I'd tell you. I wouldn't mess around with the lines too much. I think there's going to be opportunities for everybody. And the one thing I'd say is right now, Suzuki and Slafkovsky and Caulfield have serious chemistry. Can that last? I think it can. Kirby Dach's is coming back after basically missing a season of hockey. So that's not an easy thing to do. But I like where the Canadiens are right now. And I know everybody wants to jumpstart this thing and get it to the playoffs as fast as possible. I'm just not sure that's the way it's going to work out this year. But I would say this. I've been following that team since 1965. They've been my favorite team, except when I was coaching in the league. And, I'd always cheer for them except for when my teams were playing them. But I'd tell you right now that I've never been more optimistic about a Canadiens team that's really gone through a rebuild and a retooling. And I think the future is amazingly bright for them. I really do. Habinations. What if Fowler doesn't work out? What then? If Fowler doesn't work out, then I might have to get a different position. And so will the scouts for the Montreal Canadiens. The only way I think he doesn't work out is if he gets hurt. I really do. But, you've got Montembeault, you got Jacob Dobish. Dobish was great the other night against Toronto, in Toronto. So I think you've actually got some other things internally which are really good. Primo is still developing, which is great. Montembeault really developed last year, which is fantastic. So I don't think it's the end of the world if Jacob Fowler doesn't produce. But I would say this. I'm highly confident it's going to work out for him and for the Montreal Canadiens. I'm highly confident. William Stinson, Slav, I'm convinced will be the best power forward in the NHL in 2 to 3 years. I'm very convinced that he's going to be a dominant power forward. I'm not prepared to call him the best yet because I'll give you an example. I consider, Nathan McKinnon to probably be one of the best power forwards in the league. I don't think there's a bigger power player in the league, but most people just consider him to be a fast, strong center iceman. So it depends on how you view it. I'd say Kopitar is another guy where most people say, well, he's more of a centerman that checks and gets points. He's a power forward. You can go down and look at Sasha Barkov in Florida, another guy, big, physical, strong, can dominate the puck because of that size and that physical integrity. He's kind of a power forward. And I think there's going to be more and more guys coming in. Caden Lindstrom is one kid out of Medicine Hat. I see having a chance to be one of those power forwards. Iginla's son, Jerome Iginla's son, who's part of the Utah Ice Hockey Club right now. He's got a chance to be one of those guys. So do I think Slafkovsky can be one of the top 5 power forwards in the NHL? I do. I really do. And I said it the day he got drafted. I know a lot of people were talking about, Logan Cooley maybe slipping up. and getting to number one, which obviously Arizona at the time, now Utah, made a good pick. But I don't think, in that draft anyways, I didn't think Shane Wright was better, and I didn't think Logan Cooley was better, and I thought the Canes got the best guy in Uri Slafkovsky. A to Z me. Nice to hear from you. Is Reinbacher done? Third knee injury, and he's barely started his career. I wouldn't say that. I was really concerned about it, though. I remember talking to Jimmy about a week ago on this show about how it was really important for the Canes to understand that David Reinbacher had to go to the American Hockey League and make it really clear to him, this is not personal. Everybody likes you a lot as a player. We need you to get your wits about you, playing on small ice, getting used to the physical contact, making sure your body's ready to play. We don't overwhelm you with huge minutes at the professional level to start so that you can really get built up. That's a really unfortunate situation. I think it's too early to tell, but it's really unfortunate. I felt terrible on Saturday night hearing about those injuries. And obviously Sunday you start to hear more and more, and today's Monday, and you just feel bad for both those young men. You really do. Sonny Hendricks. Anyone you predict going on waivers Montreal should consider targets? I haven't really heard of too many guys. I know people have to be put on waivers right now. I'd have to look at the list. It comes out at 12 o'clock every day. And so I'll look at waivers for tomorrow. But everybody so far has cleared as far as I know. But waivers is probably not a bad thing to look at if you're Montreal. But again, you got to look at the cap too. I think Montreal's just a little bit over the cap right now, just behind Washington. So they're going to have to pay attention to that. Obviously, if Laine is hurt long term, they can put him on LTIR, and that would provide significant cap space. But again, that's something you want to adjust to once you get all the pertinent information. Next. Here we go. Nareg. I hope I got that right. Demidov got benched after taking a penalty. He's got the most point per minute at SKA, but only gets 12 minutes per game. With Bobrov's connections, any chance to get him out of Russia sooner? I would say no. I'm following him obviously really close. I think the Canadiens made a real good pick there. I know that a lot of people are very worried about, taking Russian-born players, especially when they have contracts in the KHL, but Demidov is obviously a fantastic player. I've really enjoyed watching a lot of his highlights and some of his games so far to start the season at SKA. One of the big stories there is Kuznetsov. Evgeny Kuznetsov's been hurt there, who was one of the top centermen in the National Hockey League for getting the KHL, and now he's probably out for a good long time. So that could open up more ice time for Demidov as well as they adjust their lineup a little bit. I saw this Slafkovsky go through this in TPS in Turku, where the coach he played for would play him mostly as a third or fourth line winger, and he would get hardly any power play minutes at all. And it hurt his statistics. I don't think it hurt him as a player because practice time over there is really valuable, but I do think it hurt a little bit of his offensive development. That's why his first year, obviously the injury too, but his first year wasn't great. And then last year you started to see him really assert himself. And I think you'll really see him start to assert himself this year. But I think it'd be hard for Nicky Bobrov to get Demidov out of his contract. And in fact, I don't think that will happen. Claire Capoletti. Pierre, you're doing great as a solo host today. Question: how far do you think Mayu is from his ceiling? Actually, Claire, thank you so much for the kind words. And I miss Jimmy a lot on the show right now, but that's okay. I think Logan hasn't even come close to his ceiling. And I really think that's a good way to look at it. It's an appropriate way to look at it. He's had to battle through a lot. I thought as the season went along in Laval last year, he got better and better, Claire. And I'm looking at it right now, and I think there have been nights in preseason anyways, but he's been solid. I think there have been other nights where he hasn't been as solid. That's normal for a young player, but I would say that his ceiling's got a long way to go. He's got a lot of racetrack left to cover. He really does, in my opinion. James Snedden. One of the areas that the team has struggled with is the power play. What advice would you have for Marty in coaching the power play? Oh, James, I agree with you 100%. The first thing I'd tell Marty to do is get Laine Hudson at the top of the umbrella. The second thing I'd do is I would have a one-time opportunity on the left side, so that'll be Cole Caulfield. I'd have somebody that could play in the bumper. That's probably going to be Nick Suzuki. I'd have somebody that would jam the net, and that could be either Josh Anderson or Juraj Slafkovsky. And then I'd try to find a lefty that could bring the heat on the right side of the ice. But I'd go with 4 forwards, 1 defenseman, and I'd turn Laine Hudson loose. I really would. I think, having watched him play so much at Boston University and in the World Junior and for Team USA at the National Team Development Program, the sky's the limit for this guy. And as long as they create the right options for him on the power play, he'll create so many scoring chances for all those players. He can get pucks through to the net. He can distribute the puck well. He's the master of deception. He can break the puck out of his own zone. He doesn't have to play the slingshot, and he can enter the offensive zone with puck possession. He's a special talent. So my only advice to Marty is get him on the first power play. I think that'd be really good. Next, Charles. Pierre, with the Habs having so many pending UFAs, do you think the team will be competitive with so many young players replacing them after the trade deadline or next season? I do, actually. I think that's part of their rebuild, Charles. I think it was really smart for how they've pursued this. They'll pick the right guys to keep, and I think that's when it comes down to, and one of the questions I asked President of Hockey Operations Jeff Gorton was, as the league now gets tougher and tougher, are you prepared to make, proper adjustments? And I think they know they need to get a little bit more robust. So they're going to leave some room open. But I think character is a big part of their room. And I wouldn't be surprised to see some of the younger guys get more and more opportunities as we go along here. I really would not. Vincent, great to hear from you. Hello, Pierre. As a coach, how do you keep morale high for the rest of the team after key injuries? You know what? I think guys understand that it's a contact sport, Vincent, and they understand that things like this are going to happen. It's really unfortunate. Obviously, everybody feels terrible for Reinbacher. Everybody feels terrible for what happened, with Patrik Laine. I mean, that's just so sad. It's really, really sad. The one thing I'd say, though, as a coach, you want to make sure that your players understand it's an opportunity for somebody else to come in and establish themselves. I think everybody for about a 24-hour period feels really bad because they know it could happen to them as well. But I think you have to create a positive environment around the dressing room, around the practice facility when you're traveling on the plane. Maybe you take the guys out for dinner before the season gets going. Most teams do team building exercises once they get to their probably 23 or 24-man roster. And so I think that's when you kind of address some of that stuff too. But that's when the leaders have to step up, and that's where messaging from the coaching staff to the leadership core that pass it on obviously to the players. That's where it gets really important. But I do think the coach plays a role in making sure the attitude around the team is proper. I really believe that. I think we're kind of out of questions right now. And if that's the case, I feel terrible that Jimmy wasn't here because I know how popular he is with our viewers and listeners. I'm really grateful to Jeff Gorton for coming on. Thank you so much, Jeff. But before I let you go, I want to talk about one of our great sponsors, Betway. Betway is a leading global online betting and gaming brand. Follow your gut instinct. Go with Betway. Go on betway.com or scan the QR code to join the action. You got to be 18 years or older. And please remember this, play responsibly. It's really important if you do that. But thank you so much to everybody in Montreal. Jimmy, we missed you. Jeff Gorton, you were fantastic. Montreal Canadiens fans, you guys bring the heat all the time, so it's a ton of fun to interact with you. And everybody that's got a favorite team around the league, we like interacting with you as well. Have a great day. Enjoy the rest of it. And Jimmy and I look forward to speaking with you tomorrow. This has been another edition of the Sick Podcast, the Eye Test. Thank you.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.